They moved at that soft and elongated camel pace, not wasting any energy, any effort. And as they moved, Burton was aware how the purity of the landscape purified his thoughts, uplifting them. He was aware how the slightest change in the shade or the gradation of the sand would be enough to shock his senses. And he was also aware that he was surrounded by death. The slightest mischance, like a thorn in his camel's hoof, or a burst water skin, would be more than enough to guarantee a lingering and a painful death. This was a landscape in which to be cautious, not to expend any unnecessary energy. It's the last place to do anything really stupid, like get into a camel race, isn't it?
على دلعونا وعلى دلعونا راحوا الحبايب ما ودعونا على دلعونا وعلى دلعونا راحوا الحبايب ما ودعونا على دلعونا وعلى دلعونا هوا الشمالي غير اللون هوا الشمالي غير لحالي قاعد امامي اسمر اللون.
That Berber lad who thumbed his nose and pointed at the rock was born on a camel, lived on a camel, and Richard was a newbie. But he raced and raced and drove, wanting to see what 4 years enforced European effeminacy had done to his powers of endurance. He drove, and he just won. Whew. And now these two young men, having just bonded, having risked life or limb in a completely pointless and unnecessary act of masculine bravado, of course they were now the best of friends. And as they continued their journey, it took them 2 weeks to cross the desert east of Cairo towards Suez, where they would pick up a boat to take them to Jenbo in Arabia. During those 2 weeks, Richard spent time talking with this young Berber youth, and in that time was able to compile enough grammar and vocabulary of the Berber language, a strange and unfamiliar language which he'd never met before, so that he was able to make one of the best, to that point, studies of Berber folklore and customs. How could he do that? I mean, a language he's never met before. In just 2 weeks, how was this possible? Well, to answer that question, I must tell you about his childhood. The childhood which made him and marred him